The Eagles OTAs keep rolling along, and 2 new names are now rising to the top as potential breakout candidates, both of whom likely gave Howie Roseman the go-ahead to trade Bryce Huff, which, by the way, we got even more details on that trade just yesterday. Plus, 2 more cap moves over the weekend that help fill the Eagles' war chest for their next big move. I'm Thomas Mott, this is The Thomas Mott Show. Week 2 of Eagle OTAs are here, and some new names are starting to turn heads in a big way. More on that in a second. The first update, though, has to go back to the Bryce Huff trade fallout, as we finally received clarity on the trade details, and the results aren't as spectacular as we initially thought. First, though, the random subscriber who won the Philly Dawgs football, that was Jim Colgan 4001. Jim, you won, so go down my description box of this video. All the details are there to reach out to me, prove it's you, and get me your address so I can ship this bad boy out. Jim, you won. Congratulations. Give me an email down below. Now, the big questions on the Bryce Huff trade were, A, what draft pick did the Eagles get? And the answer as of filming that on a Monday morning is, honestly, we still don't know. My guess, though, is going to be a 5th rounder. But B, what were the true cap savings from sending Huff and his expensive contract to the 49ers? And as it turns out, the initial Field Yates tweet claiming $15 million in cap space created in 2025 was way off. And that was the initial tweet that I went off of on my Friday show recapping the trade, where I also said they saved $15 million. That was based off the Field Yates tweet. If you don't know, Field Yates is the ESPN cap guy, so I thought he was legit on this one. Turns out he was wrong and way off, but I always admit whenever I'm wrong, and so the Eagles did not create $15 million in cap space. It was a little bit less. And by little, I mean it was simply $2.5 million this year. Philadelphia also paying an additional $5 million on top of his rental contract salary number in 2026. So, not necessarily that great, but really not that bad. I'll still push back, though, on anyone saying that the Eagles got fleeced in this trade and that the numbers are not as good as we thought. Here's the deal. Bryce Huff was a healthy scratch in the Super Bowl and was not going to get any playing time this year, and so Philadelphia not only got rid of his contract, in a way, saved $2.5 million this year, but got a draft pick instead for a player, again, he wasn't going to play. I still see it as a major win for Howie Roseman. Although if you ask a 49er fan right now, they believe San Francisco just fleeced Howie. They got a 10-sack guy for virtually nothing. Mainly due to the same argument that Brandon Graham actually gave this weekend on Ross Tucker's podcast, which basically amounts to, it was the system, not the player.
I feel like it's all scheme. I mean, I've seen different guys flourish in different systems, and then you see them get in another system is different. And what they asked of him this year, it just wasn't a great marriage, I would say, because I know Huff can rush. I see him doing all that, but sometimes it's just different with the type of scheme and what people ask of you and they want you to be able to do. And maybe it just wasn't that for Vic Fangio or I mean, you don't really know. I mean, I just know that he a baller, man, and he hopefully for him, I want it to be a win-win for the team and win for him. But in this case, I want him to be happy, go out if it's here or somewhere else, for him to be able to go show what he can these prime years for him.
Personally, I think BG was just being nice here. Anyone who tells you that Bryce Huff is just going to magically join the 49ers and record 10 sacks in 2025 did not watch Bryce Huff this past season. Even if you want to argue he was in the wrong system, and maybe he was, his pass rush moves in one-on-one situations was non-existent. And I still believe the Eagles just traded the Niners a useless player who's going to eat some of their salary cap. But I guess time will tell. And it is worth noting that Philly Voice did an awesome breakdown on the list of how former Eagle starters fared after being traded from the Birds, and nearly all of them have struggled. Between Hassan Reddick, Jalen Reagor, Zach Ertz is probably the one who's been decent on, obviously, the Washington Commanders, but then Carson Wentz, Michael Bennett, Torrey Smith, Jordan Matthews, rest assured that when Howie is done with you, that usually means you're cooked. Also, most of you guys know I just got back from a 10-day trip to Europe, had a great time, food is fantastic, but while you're there, not a ton of protein, and so my go-to protein bar on my trip was a David bar. Whether I was at the beach or out exploring or just in between meals, I always had a David bar with me. They first off taste amazing, super soft and doughy with a little bit of crunchy crisp, and the flavors are fantastic. My favorite was peanut butter chocolate chunk, whilst my wife was a big fan of the cinnamon roll. But the real kicker for me is the fact that this one bar right here, 28 grams of protein and just 150 calories, which if you're looking on the market for other protein bars, this has the highest protein to calorie ratio of any bar right now. That's literally 75% CFP, with the next highest option being at 50%. And David bars are science-backed, with research supporting muscle gain, fat loss, and performance. They're blood sugar friendly, keto approved, and totally gluten-free. No spikes, no junk, just clean fuel. When it comes to different protein bars, there's like a billion on the market whenever you go to the store. Big difference though for the David protein bar, I think, is taste and then the ingredients inside. Taste though to me gotta be number one, because most protein bars, it's either like eating like a candy bar, it's way too sweet, or they just taste terrible. These things are the best tasting ones I've tried. If you're ready to increase your protein without adding any sort of unnecessary calories, just head to davidprotein.com or go to the link down below in my description box, and you'll get a free carton with an order of 4 or more. Trust me, try them. If you're looking for a new protein bar, these are the ones. Check my link down below right now. Now, of course, back to the whole calorie sap situation. That's the big deal right now. I can confirm that on top of the $2.5 million the Eagles added to their cap with the Huff trade, Philadelphia also opened up an additional $6.42 million yesterday, thanks to the post-June 1st release designations for James Bradberry and Darius Slay. This then likely right now puts Philadelphia around $30 to $32 million in free cap space when it's all said and done, which is still top 10 in spending money right now in the entire NFL. And so the question becomes pretty obvious. You're post-June 1st. If you wanted to trade for some other superstar player and spend that $30 million, are you going to do it anytime soon? And if so, who for? Honestly, I'm not sure what Howie's thinking here. Like, technically, Philadelphia could spend zero of that open $30-ish million the rest of 2025 and roll over most of it to next offseason, as the NFL CBA permits teams to roll over essentially 10% of the $295 million salary cap each season, which is about $29.5 million. Rolling over that extra money could easily be the plan, as both Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith will likely require new deals next offseason, with Carter's in particular being probably record-setting. And of course, other notable free agents in 2026 include Reed Blankenship, plus basically every free agent the Birds signed to a one-year deal this past offseason. If any of them pop off, you might want to sign them as well. And honestly, just saving the money and signing Jalen Carter, it's probably the smart thing to do right now, but the fun option is actually going out and making a trade, and really, when it comes down to who they could get, there are 3 names that make the most sense. The first of which is not Trey Hendrickson, even though I would love him. I think he's off the table mainly due to his asking price, which easily requires north of $35 million per year, obviously over what they have right now. Unless Hendrickson simply wants to put aside an extension for 1 year, ring chase in 2025, and play in Philadelphia on his current $15 million deal in order to win, then go get a long-term deal, I personally don't see him happening. Again, mainly due to the fact that he's 30 years old, and if I was him at 30, I would not want to risk an injury and not get the big contract extension that I'm technically going to hold out this year for. The first true options that actually make sense begin, as we said last week, with tight end Kyle Pitts, who, again, I did a whole video on this, but he's a cheap option. The Birds want to take a little bit of a risk on an underwhelming former first rounder and maybe get their tight end in the future. Next, of course, talked about him a lot, Jalen Ramsey, who the Dolphins are going to trade, likely very, very soon now that we're post-June 1st, but his $25 million in guaranteed money on his deal this year is probably the biggest hurdle. The Finns got to eat some of that money. If they do, though, Howie could pull the trigger. Finally, the one I keep going back to is former Jacksonville Jaguar first overall draft pick Trayvon Walker, who still has 2 years left on his rookie deal at a max of like $14.75 million in base salary next year. Very cheap. Obviously, he wants a new deal, but Philly could push back that decision until next offseason and try and sell him on a more team-friendly contract to stay on a winning organization and also keep playing with his former UJ buddies. We do know that Jacksonville was shopping Trayvon Walker pre-draft, but they did end up keeping him. The edge rusher need plus the UGA tie, it's hard to ignore. Could they get a deal done, though? That's the question. I'd keep an eye on Trayvon Walker. But that's basically it. Unless you want a super old Von Miller or maybe you really want Justin Simmons, could be determined later on during training camp. Those are the 3 names that actually make sense for Philadelphia. And it's up to you right now in the comment section. Do you want to just save the money and get Jalen Carter? Do you want to go get Trayvon Walker? Let me know down below. Now, of course, trade drama aside, the big news happening this week in Philadelphia continues to be Eagle OTAs, as the Birds will practice today, Monday, tomorrow, Tuesday, and then on the 5th as well. And while we keep looking for names that are standing out right now, I got 2 more for you here on Monday. One of which is Azeez Ojulari, and the other is Moro Ojomo, as both guys are reportedly getting a ton of reps on the defensive line, according to multiple media members, and both likely played a much bigger role than we realize in Howie Roseman feeling comfortable enough to lose guys like Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, and of course Bryce Huff. Moro Ojomo, for instance, did not record a single sack during the regular season last year, but finished with top 5 defensive tackle numbers in pass rush grade and pass rush win rate in 2024, and he really turned it on like many during the postseason. There's a real scenario where Moro Ojomo is the new Milton Williams this year, and with Jalen Carter eating double teams every single week, I think he's going to have an insane season in 2025, and it's great news he's looked good so far during OTAs. Likewise, free agent edge rusher Azeez Ojulari turned some heads during OTAs last week, and I think did enough to make the Birds feel comfortable in the edge rushers they have this season to let Bryce Huff walk again. I mean, you already have Nolan Smith, and obviously Dawgs Hunt, they flourished late last year, but if Ojulari then enters the conversation and again, starts to pop off, the Birds' most expensive free agent addition could be their most important one come the start of the NFL season. Ojulari is really the only player Howie took a chance on during March that actually had some production in 2024. So he had 6 sacks with the New York Giants and showed that he still has at least a decent amount of burst on the outside and under the right circumstances could be a playmaker for Philadelphia. And I keep wanting to emphasize that Vic Fangio has a lot of say in who Philadelphia goes out and gets, especially in his defense, and if he thinks Ojulari can be that guy, who also has been pretty good in run stopping, whereas Bryce Huff was not, then I'm all in on Ojulari's resurgence. Now, of course, it is OTAs. They don't have pads on, and while we can break down quarterback play and obviously receiver play and cornerback play and safety play, maybe a little linebacker play, it's very hard to know how great an offensive lineman or defensive lineman is when they're not in pads and hitting people. So Ojomo, Ojulari, take it with a grain of salt. I always keep saying that, but we're hearing good things about both of them coming out of OTAs, and that's a really good sign for the Birds' defensive line. Now, of course, last year's breakout player finally got his Madden cover announcement, as to the surprise of no one, Saquon Barkley was officially selected this morning to be the Madden 26 cover athlete. And the cover is cool, obviously the legendary play here, although shame on Madden for removing the Jaguars logo from the helmet of the poor Jacksonville player that Barkley hurdled over. Should have just kept it on there. As Saquon Barkley was up on wires and hurtling over a random person, pretty wild to see how they actually made this. Honestly though, Saquon Barkley has been a lock for the Madden cover ever since his absolutely insane breakout 2024 season, but it is nice to finally give him his due. I mean, literally everybody, including the NFL's newest rookies, were calling for Barkley to grace the cover over the past couple of months.
Madden 26 cover, I'm gonna say Jalen Hurts. Jay Hurts.
I would say, I feel like it's gonna be like Saquon or Jalen Hurts.
Either Jalen Hurts or Saquon Barkley.
I say Saquon.
I think Saquon should be on there, or Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts or Saquon Barkley.
Saquon Barkley.
Saquon, gotta be the representative of the Super Bowl.
It's Saquon Barkley. Him or Josh Allen, one of those guys.
Oh, and by the way, on the whole Madden curse front, CBS Sports has a really great piece out detailing the fact that the Madden curse hasn't hit any of the previous 5 cover athletes. So honestly, I don't believe in the curse. Obviously, Saquon Barkley doesn't as well. I wouldn't worry about it too much. What I would worry about is hitting the notification bell because Tuesday's OTA practice is open to the media, and so we're going to get practice video and a ton of breakdown of what the Eagle players are doing for what's going to be one of their last practices because they're going to practice on the 5th, which is later on this week. Then they get a long break until mandatory minicamp on the 10th, and then the offseason officially begins because you have from June 10th all the way till the end of July until training camp starts. So still some things to cover, but it's winding down in terms of the practices. But tomorrow, be very interesting. I'll have a video up for that as usual. I'm Thomas Mott, hanging out here on a Monday. Again, hope to hear from the Eagle football winner. If I don't, I'll pick a new winner down below in the comment section later on this week, so be sure to comment. This has been Thomas Mott Show.